Investors, and welcome to another edition of 18 Minutes with 180 Markets. Well, friends, markets have certainly been weak over the last few months, and especially at the small end of town. But that also creates a lot of opportunity on the risk-reward basis, because certainly the risk in some respects is becoming lower as share prices drop, while still at the same time, the upside remains the same. And here at 180 Markets, we are probabilistic thinkers, so we are always paying attention to these ratios and trying to find those companies that really do present an incredible opportunity. And that's why I'm so glad today to be joined by Catherine Cutler of Killi Resources, because although I mentioned markets have been weak over the last number of months, the news and the essay results, the fundamentals for Killi have been very positive over the last, I believe, couple of weeks now. And with that introduction, Catherine, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Hey, Catherine, people back people. Can you just tell us in a few minutes a little bit about your history? How did you get to where you are today?
Absolutely. I'm a West Australian. I'm a geologist. I studied at the School of Mines in Kalgoorlie. I started my career up in the Pilbara of WA with a then small iron ore company, Atlas Iron, which became a very large company over time. I then moved into gold, and that's really been my forte for the last 12, 15 years. Recently, I was with Newmont out of their Jundee operation in WA, as well as for a couple of small junior exploration companies, again focusing in WA and on gold. We only floated the company Killi February last year, and we decided to put a team together first and then go about finding some assets to put into the company that we thought had merit for finding a large-scale new mineral discovery in a really good jurisdiction. So we put the management team together first, which consisted of myself, Greg Miles, who's also a geologist, Richard Bevan, who is well experienced in corporate advisory, and as well as Phil Warren. Now, the board did make up originally the Killi Resources team, which you may recognise. They had the Nebo-Babel nickel copper project in the West Musgraves of Western Australia. So together, we've got a lot of experience in exploration and taking those projects through to development.
Got it. Hey, Catherine, speaking of that, your experience at Newmont, I want to highlight that for a moment because that gives you an insider's lens to how the big people think about projects. And I was wondering, can you just discuss that experience and also how that relates right to Killi right now?
Well, yes, working for a major like Newmont does open your eyes to how exploration works, as well as how operations work. So when looking at a project and its ability to perform and deliver something of real value, you have to have sort of a tiered approach to the way that you do that and steps that you must hit in order to progress an exploration project. So that's the way that we're managing our assets as well in Killi, is we have a staged approach in which we do our original work. We get out and we do our next sets of field work, evaluate them again, and then decide whether there's an opportunity to continue with that project or to move on to another one until we assess further.
That makes a lot of sense to me. And now I guess let's get to the results there. Mount Rawson West, in the last couple of weeks, I believe you've had some phenomenal results both on the copper and the gold side. Can you just discuss them a little bit?
Sure. So end of last week, we put out the first field results from a campaign we did out at Mount Rawson West. Now, the project's just 100 k's inland from Bundaberg in Queensland, and it's an area highly prospective for copper-gold porphyry systems. It's a historically really important area. There's a lot of historical gold workings, as well as copper workings and moly mines. So there is a history there, and the tenement was pegged originally as it was the area that covers two intersecting structures that extend from the Mount Rawson gold mine, which is owned by Evolution, as well as the cross-cutting feature coming from the Sol Gold Mount Perry project. So the 305 square k's was pegged, and this is the first program that we've done out on the ground, as it was only granted last year, 2022. The results indicate that we have high-grade copper and gold at surface from the rock chips, as you said, 7.2% copper and 12.4 grams per tonne gold. But not only that, it highlighted a mineralised corridor that stretches 5.5 k's across the tenement, and it's about 2.5 kilometres wide. So we've got a really reasonably large system here, which we need to look at. Now, the results, high-grade copper at 7.2%, that's reasonably unusual.
For sure.
Now, what we observed in those samples, is that there was actually the presence of bornite. Now, bornite is not generally common at surface, and it's not generally seen at surface by geologists. It sits further deeper down in the porphyry profile and is generally associated with close proximity to a porphyry system. Bornite has the composition, it's an iron copper sulfide, so it's 1 iron atom to 5 copper molecules. So it's a high-level native copper species. So that's why the grade is what it is, which is really very interesting. Generally, at surface, we'll see things like malachite and azurite, which is sort of a more mobile copper mineral. But bornite is a really, really strong indicator for proximity porphyry systems.
When you saw those results pop through, did it immediately change your entire perspective of the project?
Well, yes, it did. We knew we were looking for a porphyry gold copper system. We knew that there was some existing workings as recorded by the Queensland government, but we didn't understand the scale of them or where they exactly were. So while we were out there collecting soils and collecting rock chips, we also did some brief mapping across the area. The old workings in the reconnaissance, we weren't actually aware of how large they were. In the announcement, you'll see there's an image there that has a photograph which extends across a hill, which is 370 metres long, that hill and that photograph. And in that 370 metres, you have 3 adits that extend 20 metres into the hill, which are like haulage ways for operations and for mining. And on the other side of the hill, you have 2 large winzers. And those winzers are for hauling ore out. So this system and this old mining that was happening was the turn of the last century in the early 1900s. So they weren't mining low-grade material, they were mining high-grade copper and gold. And this is quite a large operation. Now, since then, nothing's been done. So while we're out in the field, we were checking to see, have they completed any drilling? Has anyone done any modern exploration on this area? We weren't able to find any drill holes, no tracks, nothing like that. So it really does highlight an opportunity there to develop what's known and what these the old timers were looking at, and from a modern perspective, and see if we can put the full picture together for the gold, copper, and moly opportunity.
Right. So certainly, Catherine, there has to be some follow-up there. What should we look for, call it, over the next 6 months?
So we have the soil results were collected. They're expected in the next month. So October, the soil results will come out. That will give us a geochemical picture at surface to the whole region. So we had an existing copper, gold, moly soil anomaly that was completed by Acapulco in the early 2000s. So, but that grid or that anomaly went to the extents of the existing soil results. So we've extended that grid system. We want to see how large this area is. So those results will come back in October. We'll also be back out doing some mapping to understand more of what we can see at surface and the specific intrusions at surface. as well as we'll be redeveloping and reprocessing some of the existing geophysical data. With the plan then, once we've got a full picture, to plan the drilling and execute.
Right. And so in your mind, then it sounds like what you really want to do is do some work up front before you necessarily put the drill rig into the ground to really give yourself the best opportunity to have success. Is that your approach?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. My feeling and the team's feeling is that this is a large system that needs to be looked at in its entirety, not just piecemeal small targets. Hence why we need the full picture at surface first in order to make sure that our drilling campaign is as effective as possible.
Right. It's not a matter of just sticking some holes in the ground. You want to be a lot more strategic.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, we could go and we could drill under those old workings tomorrow, but that might not actually be the best approach to a large-scale porphyry gold copper system. It may be a much wider first pass reconnaissance drill program that covers the entire scale of the system. And then from there we move in.
Got it. Now, moving on from the copper into the gold, you also had some outstanding gold numbers, 12.4 grams per ton. Can you just discuss those numbers a little bit?
Well, I think that has to do with the whole system in its entirety as well. I think what we're looking at here is a big porphyry system. I think really that the gold and the copper are together as one. And within these porphyry systems, you'll get these zonations where you'll have higher copper, higher gold. In addition to that, you also have these structures that are offsetting, and there may be also a epithermal print over the top as well, which may be correlating to the gold. So currently we're looking at it as a whole system, and not so much as an independent elements within that system. Right.
And that's just all based upon the recent data that's coming through. This is not necessarily where you start, but is this where you'd call it the skill in geology and really understanding how to maneuver?
Yeah, absolutely. We're looking for a big copper gold porphyry system, and these systems have three things they need. It needs to be polymetallic, so it needs to have a full suite. So, which is what we've seen in the rock chips. So we've got copper, silver, gold, moly, lead, and we also need an assemblage that's specific, which we do have, which is copper, moly, and gold, which we already have in the soils at surface. And third to that, we need scale. So we do have scale. There's 5.5 Ks worth of ground there that looks highly prospective, and trying to understand this system and hone in on the best bits is going to be pretty exciting for us in the next few months.
Got it. Hey, Catherine, over the next year, what would be your definition of success?
My definition of success?
For Killi, yes.
Well, success for me is finding mineral systems.
Okay.
And discovering copper and gold. Like, that would be the real success for us. If we can get out there, do a drill campaign, and we receive some copper gold numbers within the drill holes, we'll be really very excited by that. Excellent.
Well, Catherine, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and we're really looking forward to the next 6 to 12 months. As we said, it really represents now a tremendous risk-reward ratio, where also that fundamental information from Killi just over the last few weeks, it really has been a game changer, because now we understand that there is a lot more upside there.
Absolutely. I think our existing shareholders and new investors have seen the opportunity here with these results.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. Be in touch.
Thanks, Greg.